Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you've been well. Today's video is about my truck. It is a 2016 Toyota Tacoma. You see it on my channel quite a bit. I know because I get questions asked about every little possible aspect of the truck, which is cool, which is fine, but that's the reason I made this video, just to have one video where I talk about every single thing. So Mike, what bumper are you using? Check out this video. Hey Mike, what tires are you using? Check out this video. My truck is always evolving and kind of changing to fit my needs, testing new equipment. I am a gear tester for stuff on the truck as well as just, stuff on your body, stuff you might use in the outdoors. So having said that, it is an evolutionary process. My truck probably more than most, but everyone's rig kind of evolves over time to suit their needs. Mine's no different. It was built, kind of purpose-built for my weekend getaways in Colorado. So I live up high in Colorado, high elevation. Autumn's kicking in. There was frost on my deck this morning. So I go from here typically higher. So I do a lot of mountain trails all year round. But I don't typically go out for like months at a time. It's usually just for a night or two, honestly. Those are most of my trips. So it's kind of how I built the rig, some light off-roading, a lot of camping, and that's that. I'll try not to get too into the nitty-gritty of like why I have this piece of gear or a different piece of gear or that bumper versus a different bumper. All of my stuff is well thought out. I do pick everything for a reason. It's a purpose-built truck, not built to go cruise to the mall though. If you want to build a truck to cruise to the mall, nothing wrong with that, but that's not my truck. Without further ado, I think we'll just kind of get into it. So the truck is dirty right now, kind of intentionally left dirty just because I have a lot of mall crawler types that like to come to my videos and say, wash your truck once in a while. Typically, I just got back from a trip, like this video. I just got back from a trip, so I decided to film it while it's muddy and dirty and unkempt. I emptied most of what's in the truck though, so it'll be relatively empty, though I did leave some stuff because some stuff just kind of makes sense to see how it's set up when I'm using it. Let's start on the outside. In the front here, I have a CBI T3 front bumper. I chose aluminum because for most of this truck's life, it was my only vehicle and daily driver. So I wanted to keep stuff light. Lightweight components are easier on your drivetrain, engine, suspension components, everything. In addition to having more power, better fuel economy, whatever. So aluminum makes sense for some stuff. There's a big debate between aluminum and steel in general. Rear bumper where you're gonna be falling off stuff, I think that for sure needs to be steel. Sliders, those need to be steel. Skid plates and front bumper, there's pros and cons to either. An aluminum front bumper will bend way easier than a steel. Obviously, aluminum skid plates will bend and scratch way easier than steel. So if you're intending to use your skid plates and your front bumper a lot, then steel is the way to go. If you want a more light use rig where you have skid plates that you just want to, just in case you hit a rock, they'll protect it, and a bumper, like I got mostly my bumper for mounting lights, mounting a winch, getting more clearance and looking cool, I guess, kind of, then aluminum is a good choice, but it also does offer more protection than your standard bumper. Like I've run into a couple things, I slid off the road into a tree, and my aluminum bumper protected it more than a factory bumper. So all that to say, aluminum's not just like complete trash, but it will for sure bend and dent easier than steel will. Having said that, been happy with this bumper. I think it looks great and it supports all of the components that I need to put in it. So I have a Baja Designs S8 20-inch light bar, Baja Designs Squadron Sport fogs up front, and then I have a winch as well. It's a Warn Xeon 10S Platinum with a synthetic line. So that's a waterproof winch, which is important for me in Colorado because again, I go out whatever the weather is for the most part, and I'll do, some light river crossings and whatnot. Anyway, the winch is exposed to all sorts of elements, so I opted for the waterproof version and synthetic line, again, trying to keep things light. So that's what's going on in the bumper. A grill, a lot of people ask, I have the Bay Area metal fabrication grill. It is made out of steel. This is a 2016 Tacoma TRD Off-Road. So I don't have the front sensors, so I don't know if Bay Area Metal makes one that works with the front sensor or not, but I don't have a front sensor, so I don't know. I do know that this T3 bar with the small hoop does still work with the front sensor though. Then making our way back up on the hood, I have a ham antenna up here. This is just a little stubby that I'll keep on if I'm not needing much range. I can drive through a car wash and whatever with the little stubby on, but it will not get nearly as much range as a full-size antenna. I made a video, just search my channel. It's called Comms, C-O-M-M-S, where I talk about my ham radio setup and my antennas and that stuff in more detail. I also have some ditch lights. The lights on them are Baja Designs S2 Pros in the wide pattern, and these are angled to the side, and they're not angled down because the spread is so great that angling them straight out illuminates the ground just a few feet out from my truck. I like these side ditch lights for exploring trails at night. A lot of times I'll head out after work on a Friday and it's already getting dark. So in order to find a good camping spot or good spot to pull off, these side illumination lights do help a ton. Under the hood, we're not gonna spend too much time here because I did a whole video dedicated to what's under my hood. So you can check that video out. Again, just search it on my channel and you'll find what's under here. But I'll tell you, just breeze by it real quick. I do have a TRD intake with an AFE dry filter. I don't think it gives any performance gains really, but it sounds all right. I have an ARB twin compressor tucked under the hood, and I do also have a little box. It's a Seahorse case, small box that fits under there. That's where I keep my air up devices, as well as the switch for my compressor. The compressor is mounted on a sleeve bracket, and it does have the manifold primarily for heat. I don't have air lockers, I just have the factory rear electronic locker. I did install a little under hood LED light, and my battery did die, so I switched out for an Optima yellow top, which has been so far so good for me. I have a Blue Sea fuse box in there. It's the 12 port one. I did all my wiring. I wanted to keep it relatively clean and understandable, so everything is done fused through that fuse block. So it uses all of the same standard fuses, so I just keep a bunch of spares in case something goes out. I know where to change them. It's all gonna be right there. The only real other thing to note under the hood is behind the grill is where I mount the head for the Warn winch. So with the low profile bumper, there's not enough room to mount the controller on top of the winch like you normally would, so I needed to buy a relocation kit and mount it in the grill on just some custom quote unquote brackets that I made up. So then let's go up top. Up top, I have the Prinsu roof rack. I've been really happy with this rack. I originally got it because I had a 7-foot garage, and at the time my truck had about 2 inches or whatever of clearance to where I measured out that the Prinsu was the only rack on the market at the time when I got it that I could still fit in my garage, and I had like a 1/2 inch room of clearance. So that's why I bought it originally, but I've been very happy with the rack so far. There aren't a ton of accessories for it, but it is kind of modular and DIY friendly. So I've kind of modified a bunch of stuff to work up there, here and there, and added some tie down stuff. And typically I'll just throw a bag or something up top if I'm using it at all. Right now I do also have a 40-inch Baja Designs light bar up top. That is the Spot, and it's tucked down, kind of recessed in there. I changed it out to the Spot because the combo was just bouncing too much off the hood, illuminating way too much. And roof-mounted light bars, I'm not the hugest fan of them because they just illuminate too much stuff. All the dust in the road, any rain, any snow, and you really can't see if there's much debris in the air. So I prefer the lower-mounted light bars, honestly, but the top one does throw really far. So if you're in relatively clear conditions, it'll shoot way out there, especially with the Spot. Then I do have a bunch of little hooks and tie downs up there. I have some Lens Sun solar panels that I'm testing out, 100 watt and 55 watt panels up there, and they are the kind of bendy design style. And I think those panels work better when kind of glued down to a roof rather than I have them on the rack. The rack, there's a little bit of air that's able to get up under them, and though I've mounted them as good as you can get, fully supported, they still do kind of vibrate and rattle a little bit up there when I get up to like 60 miles an hour or so. So I may explore some different options, but those panels are really nice and really lightweight and really streamlined. Nobody even knows I have solar panels up on the roof. Up there also I have a WeBoost antenna, that big giant antenna that people are always asking, what the heck is that? That's a WeBoost antenna. Again, I cover more of that in my comms video if you're curious. The crossbars up top are nice. You can move them around however you want. So if you need a few bars, you can just put a few bars up there. If you need more support or whatever, you can put more. You can space them out, like I have mine spaced out so I still have full access and views out of my moonroof when I don't have anything up top there. And then there are T-slots, basically accessory slots that you can drop bolts in and kind of do your DIY thing. It has slots on the tops, on the sides, and on the bottoms as well of the bars. So kind of nice to attach what you need to attach to those things. People do ask a lot of times how much louder it is, and honestly, not much louder, especially if you have the wind fairing on there with the little noise guard on the bottom. That's how I've been using it from the very start. So I can't speak to how the rack might sound without that, but with that stuff on it, it's not really noticeable at all wind noise wise. And then on the back here, some of my favorite stuff. The first mod I did was this Diamondback truck cover. I started with the SC. Later, they sent me a new model of the HD, which is what I'm using now, that they wanted me to test out. They changed a few of the designs and the hinges and stuff. So currently, I'm rocking the Diamondback HD, though you could do a same or similar thing with the SC as well. I love the Diamondback cover. Before I put the tent on it, I used it more traditionally like the Diamondback, where you could fold up the panels, and I had the little shelf in there and my get home bag and some stuff I kind of stored back there, and then I would load stuff on top of it. I've kind of evolved my use of the Diamondback cover, where I basically permanently have this tent mounted up top because it's nice and low profile, and I primarily don't daily drive this truck anymore, so I can just kind of leave this stuff on it now. Put these front runner rail systems on here, so it's kind of this slot where you can put the crossbars and the towers up, and it's pretty modular. I did a whole video on this called the Ultimate Bed Rack System or something. Again, that's on my channel. Check it out if you want more detail. But the Diamondback now just essentially stays closed. So I love it because up underneath here is basically a shelf. When I'm out camping, I can put stuff. I can put shoes and pots and pans and whatever. So there's enough room under here where I have this giant shelf of space that I can utilize just to store stuff. Like I actually have some stuff over here that I set out earlier when I was unloading from the tailgate. So I like it because it's a huge shelf. It also has this weatherproof gasket running the whole radius of the top of the truck bed to keep out debris and stuff. Truck beds inherently are not very sealed though, so I added some other weather stripping here and there and kind of tried to plug the gaps. So I have it relatively weather tight, but to get these things at 100% weather tight, the Diamondback is really good, but the rest of the truck bed takes a lot of work. So anyways, love the Diamondback. I'll link to this down below. I'll link to everything I talk about in this video down below. I think I might have said that already. And then the front runner racks I've been very happy with. I've tested a handful of racks here. I've broken a couple of them. These ones have been bomb-proof. Some people ask why I have 3. This is because sometimes I put the iCamper X cover on here, which extends further. So I just wanted more support towards the back, but my front 2 traditionally supported a Max Trax bracket that I made and broke that. I made like a prototype test bracket that I was using for a while to see if it would proof of concept hold up and work well. And it worked well, but it didn't hold up long term. So eventually it broke. But that's why I have these 2 crossbars in the front spaced how I do, because that's what the Max Trax mounting pin holes worked with. And then I do have a couple other little things. I have these little guys here that allow me to mount a high lift jack. I don't usually take a high lift jack because a bottle jack and other stuff will do what I need to. High lifts are great, but I just don't usually take them. But when I do take them, I can just mount them on the side here, so they're kind of tucked out of the way and relatively low. You know, I'm not putting them on the roof or anything. And then just not taking up any room in the truck bed. Up top here, currently I'm running an iCamper SkyCamp Mini. This is a prototype tent. I've been very happy with it. Again, I test and beta test a lot of products for people. So this is a prototype test that I've been testing for iCamper. They say it's probably gonna come out early next year, early 2020. Anyways, it's a hard shell tent that, as you can see, doesn't overhang on a short bed truck. So I really like hard shells because they're easier to deploy. This one, it kind of pops up and then it has a section that folds out. So it's kind of the size of traditional tents that you'll see mounted back here with the floppy covers, but it's a hard shell, so it's really cool. All right, so for rock sliders, I'm using CBI rock sliders. These are the flat ones with the kick out in the rear with the top plate. Whew, a lot to get out. I like the top plate because dogs getting in and out of the truck, if they're not just like taking a leap right up. And my dog's kind of had some CCL issues. I got him TPLO surgery a handful of months back now. If you follow along, you may have seen that. Anyway, he doesn't just jump straight up. He kind of evolved when he was hurt to climb up. So he kind of climbs up and that way his feet don't fall into this rack. He kind of uses it as a step. The rear kick out in the back helps with that as well. And also the flat nature of them does help them be used better as a step, more so than a traditional rock slider. Having said that, they're plenty strong and plenty bomb-proof to be a rock slider. Some are angled up like this, which will give you a little bit more clearance. These, you don't quite have the clearance, but they are still out of steel, and I've slid over rocks plenty of times with them. I don't think they look as good as the angled, but functionally for a step, they work really well, and they still hold up well as a rock slider. Underneath, I have aluminum skids. These are the CBI full skids. I did do an exhaust reroute, so I don't have anything hanging down with the skid plate. They're just completely flat. I scratched these things up a fair bit, but if I scratched them up much more, I'd probably want to go for steel. The skids will not outlast the truck like a set of steel skid plates might if you're wheeling it pretty hard. I'm kind of right at the cusp of where I should probably have steel, but I have aluminum, and I've been happy with aluminum. They haven't broken on me. I've bashed them pretty hard. Ashley's bashed pretty hard straight into rocks, and they've held up so far. So aluminum skids, no real issues with those either. For suspension components up front, I'm using Fox 2.5 remote reservoir shocks. Still with the standard spring that comes on those babies. And again, I'll try to link everything I can in the video description down below. I do have a Total Chaos spindle gusset, and I'm using SPC adjustable upper control arms. I'm on 35-inch tires, which I'll get into a little bit, but the SPCs do help you dial in, allowing you to get your tire as far forward while still having all your caster camber corrections necessary. So they're a highly adjustable upper control arm, which I've been really happy with. Rear suspension, I'm using Fox 2.0 remote reservoir shocks, an OME Dakar leaf pack. I'm using the medium duty leaf pack with an add-a leaf. This whole lift is about 2.5 to 3 inches roughly, depending on what I have on there and what kind of gear I have loaded into the truck. But about a 2.5 to 3 inch lift. Rides great. Haven't had any issues with the lift. The most recent change that I've made is the Archive Garage hammer hangers. I do most of my installs and bumpers and wiring and all of that crap, but some stuff I take to the pros. True Automotive did the Archive Garage hammer hanger install, which is just a pain. If you've seen installs of those things, I just didn't want to mess with it. I don't have a lift, so I took it to him. He knocked that out. So it's a beefed up hammer hanger. So it's a shackle hanger, which really smooths out the ride. It makes the rear kind of feel more planted when you're off-road and on-road, and especially like washboards and stuff like that. So I've noticed an improvement actually just for the ride quality with the Archive Garage hammer hangers. A lot of why I wanted them also is it allows more droop in the rear. I still need to get extended shocks, which I will do at some point, you know, finances and whatnot, which will allow me to utilize the full new droop of the rear. But I've noticed great ride quality improvement with the secondary benefit of it allows more flex. So then we come to wheels and tires. I have a full video on how to run 35-inch tires on a Tacoma. So if you're wondering all the specs on that, body mount chop kind of stuff and whatever, check that video out, as well as gearing. So to push these 35s with all the other armor and stuff I have on the truck, I'm using Nitro 529 gears, which have helped the drivability of the truck a lot in its current configuration. I did run basically this exact setup on the 35s in full armor without the gears just to kind of see, and it was too slow for me. I mean, I live up in the mountains. If you're just completely doing flatland and not really doing off-roading and not caring about the low range performance, then you might be able to get by without upgrading your gears, but hugely beneficial for me. So Nitro 529s is what they recommend for 35-inch tires. My tires specifically are the Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws. My tire consideration is, again, you're sick of hearing it, I live in the mountains of Colorado. I do a lot of snow driving, both on-road as well as off-road. And I'm oftentimes driving an hour, typically at least an hour or more to get to these trailheads on the road. So a street performant tire is pretty important to me, as well as ones that will work well in snow, both on-road and off-road. So I typically don't use a mud terrain tire for those reasons. I've been very happy with a handful of all-terrain tires. Currently the Falcon Wild Peaks have performed really well. There's kind of three big hitters in Colorado, the BFG KO2s, the Wild Peaks, and the Goodyear Duratrax. Those are kind of the three main ones. There's other ones out there, obviously, but those are kind of the three like off-road oriented all-terrain tires that still do well in the snow. So I had not used the Wild Peaks before. Been using them, been happy with them. They've been a solid tire so far. They are a little heavier than some of the other all-terrains, but you don't really notice that too much when driving. The wear has been good. They've never come out of balance. They have good traction. They do well in all of the stuff I use them in. So I get asked this question a lot of time about these tires. I'm not really gonna do like a dedicated tire review, but it's like a mini tire review in this video. They've been good. Slashed the sidewalls on rocks and stuff and haven't had a puncture. Haven't had any issues with the tire. I've had them mounted for their whole life on the Venom Rex VR602 wheels. These are a 17-inch wheel that I just like the look of. They're in black. They just came out. They sent them out to me to kind of test them out when they were first coming out. And I've had no issues with them. They have a pretty good backspace, so I'm not using wheel spacers for these. They have the perfect offset for the setup that I'm utilizing currently without spacers. So been really happy with this whole setup. For a rear bumper, I have the CBI high clearance. This is steel. I think they really only sell it in steel. You might be able to special order an aluminum or something. Been happy with this bumper. I think it looks beautiful, gives more clearance, and also this whole thing is just solid steel. Well, not solid steel, it's plate steel. So when you fall off, your tire rolls off of a rock, you crush right into this bumper and slide right off, no problem. So in addition to just more clearance, better departure angles, you just have protection. Wheeling something like a truck, even a small truck like a Tacoma, the butt does stick out more than an SUV or a Jeep or something like that. So having a beefed up rear bumper definitely comes in handy. In the back here, nothing too exciting really. I have a mountain hatch. This basically turns your kind of ridged tailgate area into a nice table. Has some cup holders, is made out of food grade plastic, so you can use it like a cutting board. Granted, mine's always dirty, so I just use whatever I want as a cutting board. Been happy with it. I like the orange, though they do come in different colors if you're looking for something different. I have the rubber Toyota bed mat, kind of keeps things from sliding around as much back here. Total Chaos bed stiffeners, which are great, which I typically in the day-to-day just utilize all the additional tie-down points, which I really love, but it also stiffens the bed. This issue isn't as prevalent with the Diamondback cover, which is just putting all of the weight on top for the most part. But when you have a bed rack or something in here that's pushing outward pressure on the bed, Tacoma beds and all truck beds really have a tendency to spread out a little bit and can even break. So the bed stiffeners really help support that. They don't make it drive better or anything like that I know of, but add more tie downs and give you a little peace of mind. I have some storage that I put up on the top side of the Diamondback. I have a Rotopax back here. I added a couple little tie down points. The Tacoma bed does have a power outlet, and then I just have some ratchet straps and stuff that I keep in the little bins. All right, let's go inside. Again, I haven't cleaned up since my last trip, or maybe the trip before that. Over here, I keep a headlamp, some miscellaneous stuff, some dog treats, and I've done a whole video really going pretty deep into the interior. I should probably do an update of it soon, but I'll just kind of breeze through some stuff. It's my ham radio. It's a Yaesu FTM 400. The unit's mostly below the seat. Microphone is over here. I have a trauma kit that has tourniquet and like your major trauma stuff in that, Velcro to the side. These are the switches to control my light bars and rock lights. Inside, I wired up this little USB charger, voltmeter. This is always on, so I can charge my cell phones and other stuff when my truck is off. I had this originally, this little magnet mount when I was using the magnet stuff. Now that I'm using wireless chargers, I don't use the magnet stuff as much, but I never removed this. I primarily am using the 67 Designs phone holder, which is in this Ram Mounts channel that I kind of custom fit before all these companies were making cool stuff. There's better stuff off there that you can buy off the shelf now, but they essentially do the same thing, which allows you to mount stuff up here. This is a Garmin Overlander mount. I'm testing out one of those. And then I have an Owl dashboard / security cam back up in there. Nothing much going on over here. Sorry, I got some harsh light in here. In the glove box, I have a Magpul window DACA pouch that I use for camera stuff and RAM mounts. Some wet wipes, various charging cables, ARB, deflator, my winch controller. I think that's about it. Some other random stuff. Random stuff in the pockets over here. And then here I have the organizer. Again, I'm gonna link to all this stuff that you're curious about. And just keep some flashlights, some big pepper spray to use for bears or whatnot. And then yeah, some little tools and some gum and stuff like that. This, an important one for me, is a cup holder that fits into the cup holder that allows me to use my Nalgene. You could fit a hydro flask or whatever as well. And then this is the handle of my 28-inch Fiskars chopping axe. I did a whole video on axes if you're curious about my thoughts. Then back here, I usually keep a get home bag when I'm camping. It's usually supplemented by the other stuff, so I'll take it out if I don't need it. But most of the time I'll have a bag either in the bed or in the back seat or something back here. This is a dog hammock. I usually take it out when I'm done using it, but I left it in just to remind me to show you. This is one of the main tools that help keep my dog hair and mess somewhat under control. I have some various tools and stuff in the storage under the seat. Behind the seat is where I keep my main tool bag though. So this is an Atlas 46 tool bag. I think I said I would do a whole video on kind of the tools I keep with me. Anyways, this has all my tools in it for the most part. Some miscellaneous stuff under there, a little compressible backpack, some flares and whatnot. Back here is a fire extinguisher. I'm working on, when I have some time, I'll be mounting up my nice fire extinguisher, my H3R Performance fire extinguisher in their mount. So I'll do that at some point, but haven't done it yet. Over here, I keep some wipes, this vest in case I need to walk on the side of the road or something, some gloves, umbrella, paper maps, stuff like that. On this side, I keep I think it's a clean canteen, basically with some of my koozies on here to keep them rattling. This little guy to give my dog some water when he needs it. I got one of these little slip leashes in case I come across some loose dog that I need to get back to its owner. And back here is a platform for a Treyu. I removed 2/3 of the rear seat entirely and built this little platform underneath just out of some plywood and some piano hinges. Pretty easy stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into it. This part folds up to allow me to access the storage. This part folds up. If I actually need to seat someone back here in a pinch, that can fold up and someone can still sit back here. So I can still fit 3 in the back seat. Granted, they wouldn't want to go on any road trips or anything, but if for some reason I need to seat someone, I did make it to where that front part does fold up, but also allows me to store some stuff underneath there. That's nice. I bought this dog bed that fits perfectly in this area. And the reason is because Atreyu was always going on trips with us, but was kind of like, you know, there's this obvious big gap here. So I was trying to fill it with stuff. So I was like, let me just build something. So now he has this whole area for him. All right, guys, I think that's it for me. Sorry for these harsh, crazy shadows going on for much of this video, I'm guessing. Been a frustrating morning for me. There's just been like helicopters flying by, crazy dogs barking. I live in the mountains, but it feels like I live next to a freaking highway with all these cars driving by. So yeah, I tried to crop most of that out, but we'll see. Anyway, this is the current status of the truck. As always, like I say, it's kind of constantly evolving. So if you see me using different gear in the future, it doesn't mean what I'm using now sucks. It just means I'm trying some other stuff out. So that way I can give to you my thoughts based on experience of trying out a bunch of different stuff. So I like as often as possible, as often as I can, trying different stuff. Only good stuff that seems like a good fit. I don't try just like random crap out there. Anyways, I'll link to everything down below. Sometimes, as often as possible, those links are affiliate links, which is largely how I support what I do here on the channel. So using those links is always super helpful. Come back to this video, click the links, use them when you want to buy something. Get subscribed to the channel if you're not, get that notification squad thingy, hit thumbs up, comment down below. All those things really help out, and I appreciate you watching these videos. If you have any other questions, a lot of the videos I make are in direct answer, direct reply, direct whatever to questions that I get here on the channel. So I always appreciate questions. You can leave questions on any video that aren't related to the video because I still read all my comments. So I see those, and those help kind of guide what I do on the channel. I do have a Patreon if you want to get a little deeper into kind of what I do on my channel. I do like every month I do live feeds and some cool stuff for patrons only if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, yeah, more videos coming. As always, thanks so much for your time. Take care.